Hey, welcome to Real Talk, episode 44. I'm Todd, this is AJ.
Yo!
And we're back.
Here we are.
So we're excited to be back. What's Real Talk? Most of you know, but just in case you don't, Real Talk's just an opportunity to talk about God, life, the Bible, and all of that and how it intersects in life. We tend to talk about questions that are asked anonymously up in a link above, www.theremnant.live/real-talk. Click that link, form fillable box pulls up, tippity-tap. Hit submit, and it goes directly into our database completely anonymously. Couldn't find you if we tried. We've tried. So yeah, that's the gist of it. This sort of just was birthed out of our discussions. There's my Southern coming out. Our discussions, and hopefully you guys, will join us virtually as we kind of talk about these questions all that kind of stuff. So that's the gist of it.
The gist
40
has been said.
4 episodes deep, bro.
We'll be getting close to 50. It's kind of a surreal thing, It's like a...
It is, actually.
half-century mark.
That is half of 100. You're right. So one of the things to let you guys know, too, if you notice, each of our episodes, to make it easier for you guys, are also numbered now. So it'll say episode 44.
That's
probably
right.
Noticed that.
Yep, on the thumbnail.
We're going to go back. Are we going to go back and change those
we
eventually?
definitely plan on changing all of them.
So you should, over time, see, that would be pretty cool, 1 to 44.
Yep.
Man, so it's exciting stuff.
Absolutely.
So we like to start these off before we dive into questions. Thank you, those who took our request last time to ask questions and give us topics.
Yes.
You guys, you came through, and we got quite a few. I'm really excited to dig into those.
Yes.
So yeah,
dive on in.
He's right. That's what we're gonna do. So AJ,
Yes.
we like to start this off by saying, how's your week been, man?
Week has been very good. I'm very excited and very nervous. We actually... we're going to be starting a new group called Lionheart very soon. Man, and it's very... The reason why I'm nervous is because it's a serious thing. People talk about, like we have a men's group. Men's group is cool. Anybody's invited, and we get to, just kind of grow together as a group. But this group is going to be a little more tight-knit, and, it's all about, overcoming things that you want to overcome, or if you want to get better at something. And it's super cool to have a bunch of people come together, and it's going to be intense. We kind of talked about the nature of it. We had a meeting, and it's going to be, I don't know, man. My initial thoughts were very nervous because I know for me, I want to grow. But, when you talk about wanting to grow, you already know, I've already experienced this, is you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to make, you're going to have the hard talks, and all these things that have molded me into who I am now. But it's funny because no matter how far along you get into your walk or your maturity, there's always those times where you feel that resistance because that discomfort is not a good feeling, and you have to overcome that. Exactly. So you have to. It feels like no matter how long or how far along you go, or how far, I'm saying the same thing over and over, how far you are in your walk, whenever you hit that next level of wanting to grow, there's always that discomfort no matter what it is. And that can be hard to overcome. So I'm excited but also nervous. I'm very excited for just our media, picking up intern Clint. He's been just, man, very, I guess I want to say inspiring. He's got a lot of passion for this. And I know it's kind of ignited me a little bit, and I'm ready to hit the ground running and just make things better. I'm hoping that you guys as an audience can tell, in the coming weeks, months, that we're getting better with quality and all these things, because that's what we're striving for right now, and that's just very exciting, to get goals set up and reach them, and strive for them. So that's exciting. As far as what's been on my mind, I personally struggle with this, not the idea. I struggle with the feeling of apathy, and I think it comes from a past of just burying feelings. So when I get into life mode of trying to do one thing after the other, I think my mind tends to just kind of shut my feelings off, or at least tries to. And so then I kind of go through everything, and I seem sad, or I just seem shut off, or I seem off, and it's very easy to tell. So I have to be very conscious of that, and I kind of felt that earlier today, waking up, and I always go through this weird period of waking up. I'm not good at waking up. It takes me a little bit, but once that wears off, I'm usually all right, let's do it, and I was just I don't know, it just wasn't there today. I was like, shrug. And it's just not a good place to be, because it kind of feels like, the Bible talks about, God, when someone is lukewarm, he spits them out, and, in my opinion, apathy is kind of like being lukewarm. Like, you're just kind of stuck in the middle, not wanting to feel anything. So, excuse me. So yeah, man, just really trying to push through that and still be a joy bringer. That's something that you've mentioned a couple, here and there, is being a joy bringer. And I know for me, like, that is such a huge thing, because I know that if it wasn't for all you guys being joy bringers when I was first coming around, I don't know if I'd be here. I don't know if I'd be a Christian even. Who knows? So props to you guys for that, because that's huge. Because you changed my life with it. But now it's also my responsibility to bring that joy that brought me to where I am now. So just wanting to fight through the apathy and just the apathetic feeling, and be a joy bringer. So that's my focus.
So how are you going to do that?
I think it's important, because when I get into these apathetic places, I tend to not tell anybody about it, right? I tend to just kind of sit in it and then I'm like, what's wrong with me? In my head, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I just don't feel anything, and then people are like, what's wrong? I'm like, So, I think it's very important for me to talk about it. It's very easy for me to just kind of slip back and be here but not be here, and I don't want that. I want to be able to be like, hey guys, kind of like what I did today. Like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Please pray for it, and because I feel like even that's a great step, and even in that kind of step taken, I felt like a relief in a way, because I knew I was being faithful, and that's good. So
yeah, that was cool.
I think
catch it.
Exactly. So I think I want to strive to be able to see things and actually act on it, right? And not or counteract per se. Counteract those kind of things, because it's not healthy, and I don't want to fall into that. And I just want to. It all goes back to how real everything is, and I used to put it this way: is how ridiculous are you willing to look, or how ridiculous are you willing to be to grow, or be closer to God? And so in those moments, like, you got that man pride. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk about my feelings to people, and that can overcome you sometimes. And then before you know it, you find yourself in a weird, place where you're not talking, you're doing all these, things that it's not who you are. So, just taking steps, being willing to be ridiculous, no matter what it is. Like, for an example, like I used to say, I'm going on a rant, out of tangent.
No, you're good.
Sorry.
No, so I'm just closing, so I have enough juice for our question.
I used to say in my car every day, and it's kind of convicting that I don't anymore, or at least not as often as I used to say. Like, I've already won, and what I meant by that, it was like, Jesus died for me. He's taken my sin. I'm a high priest. I'm a co-heir in Christ. I've already won. I know how the story ends, and I'm a part of it. So I should be joyful, and it used to help. And so just stuff like that, like how ridiculous are you willing to be, to stay faithful. So, yeah, I guess asking the question, how you gonna do that? Man, just dive in. I get real tired of myself when I say like, yeah, let's do it, and then like it's just like, and then that fear comes in, and fear, puts a block up in front of you, and you can't get around it. Like, I just want to be able to smash through that stuff. In order to do that, you just have to do it. That's how I feel. Like, talk about where you're at. Pray. Read. Do all these things that are gonna help you, and then be ridiculous with it. Like, I'll never forget until the day I die when you said, just be a maniac, and I did, and it was amazing. And I just want to get back to that. It's weird that I've struggled getting back to that, because I know I've talked about it before in here, and it's still not there, right? So
I think that's good for people to hear, though, because I had a talk this week with someone. Life is not that clean always.
Yeah.
A lot of times we share stuff like struggles. I think we talked about some line, right? Struggles or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we have this sense of like, well, now that I've said it, I need to be over it. I don't think that's realistic. I think that life is part of the journey. So I think it's good for people to hear you say, you know what, I'm still working on this, and maybe, hopefully, and we have faith that someday you're going to be like, hey, this is something that I kind of figured out, and here's how I did it. So it's good. I'm kind of on the opposite end, so maybe this is good. we didn't talk about this. I feel like I have been bombarded with emotions for the last really almost exactly 7 days, or like a week.
Yeah.
Because I remember when it kind of kick-started with sort of an ordeal that happened last week.
Yeah.
You remember that. And actually, it'd be 2 weeks ago. But, yeah, I think that I've been, and I didn't realize that I've been bombarded. I kind of shared a little with you earlier that I had a moment last night where I just felt so, not out of control in my actions, but in my mind and my heart. And I felt so unsettled, and I felt fear and confusion and all these other things. And they were just screaming at me. And, in praying and thinking through it, I had this moment of, wait a minute, this isn't me. I had this surreal moment of recognizing these thoughts and these lies that had creeped into my mind that was not me. We have an enemy. I've said it this way before. We kind of have two. We have a traitor outside, and that's the enemy, and we have a traitor within, and that's our flesh. And both of them, the traitor within tries to open the door for the traitor without and get us to, turn our back on God or walk away or be just miserable. Sometimes just miserable. And that's kind of where I was. And I had this cool moment of, I didn't have this weird vision or anything, but looking back on it, like Jesus coming to me and saying, hey, I'm right here. And in the midst of that, recognizing those lies and taking control again, taking captive my thoughts, as Scripture says. And then today kind of living out of that. Yeah. And I want to be there again. I don't want to be, because I get the allure or the temptation of apathy, because at least then you're not overwhelmed with emotion. Mm. Is it in your own mind, if you had to choose between apathetic or anxious, which do you choose? Typically, you're going to pick apathetic, right?
Yeah.
And I get that, because being anxious and overwhelmed and stressed and, out of control in your heart and mind is a terrifying feeling.
Absolutely.
And it makes you, nervous and scared. So that's kind of where I was at. And in the midst of that, man, it was surreal. I kept saying to myself, I told a friend, like, I got to find myself. I know that sounds so dramatic, but that's what it felt like. How you doing? I'm fine. I just got to find myself, because it wasn't feeling like me. Mm-hmm. So today has been better in that. I'm really not obsessed. I'm trying to think of another word. Driven, motivated lately to, there's a phrase, I read a book. I believe it was again, Wild at Heart. I've referenced that several times. He talks about knowing your name. Mm-hmm. And knowing your name is a deep thought. Who am I? I know who I am, and nothing or no one is going to change who I know myself to be. And there's a peace that comes with that. That even when hard times come, I think when you think about people in life who can stay collected during really hard times, and it's because they know their name. They know who they are. So the circumstances can change, but their identity and worth and value and who they are, who am I, they stay the same, and there's peace in that. So for me, that's something I'm wrestling with, because people, I'll confess, I can be guilted really easily. Mm-hmm. You probably know this, people, because I want to do the right thing. And so I'm one of those guys, I don't always know, and sometimes you tell me, but when someone tells me, I know that I'm only controlling myself. Right. So it's really easy for me to blame any situation on myself, because there's always something I could have done better. Yeah. But in doing that, sometimes you if people know that, they can take advantage of you, because they say, okay, AJ or Todd, I know that they're going to blame themselves anyway, so I'll just shift all of it on them. That's right. I acted this way because you did this. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh, shoot. So that's part of it, too, because if you allow people to do that to you, it's really easy to lose your name and forget who you are.
Oh, yeah. Get trapped in this weird guilt complex constantly.
And then who do you become, Mm-hmm. And then I feel guilty for who I am sometimes. So it's all part of that, I don't want to make people uncomfortable, or... this is really real. People are like, oh, you're intimidating. I'm like, I'm the goofiest guy. But because that's in my head, mm-hmm. I'll change who I am. And then it's funny, because when you're not being true to yourself, you don't feel good either. Nope. So it's kind of where I'm at. And then today's been good. And I thank God for that. However, the other thing is I'm still sick, which is so frustrating. But I finally broke down and took with antibiotics today. So pray that I don't get any weird side effects there.
For real.
But other than that, Pretty good. Exciting, like you said. A lot of exciting stuff happening around here.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
We kind of had a lull for a while, and I feel like we're kind of shooting back up.
Yeah, man. Overall, it's just an exciting time. We, as a church, we're on a crazy journey, and, being a part of it now for 3 years, probably close to 4, which is weird. What a surreal thing. Like, just the, not culmination, it's a bad word, but the progression, there we go. The progression of just everything, the timeline, just seeing it all, and wow, it's special to be a part of, and I don't know, man, I'm blessed by it, and I probably take it for granted way too much, but in this moment I go, wow. So.
Well, ironically, our first question today kind of ties with emotions and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So it says, our first anonymous question today, in regards to leadership, I've been trying to grow toward what God has called me to do, and sometimes this leadership requires me confronting others that I'm trying to lead. How do you keep people's negative comments from affecting your personal feelings? Ironically, just kind of touched on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hate the fact that I'm going to have to blow my nose again on camera.
Hey, you know what? Hey, you already mentioned that you were sick, so it's okay.
Yeah, I did warn him ahead of time.
It's true.
All right, so sorry.
I feel like leadership's a very interesting thing, man. Something that I'm trying to get better at. Something that I have a lot of room to grow in because I know how uncomfortable leadership is, and like I said, I can battle with being comfortable because of it's hard to jump out of that box, that safe space. So if you're trying to lead people, and I guess a lot of it's about perspective. I think you have to ask yourself, what is this negativity? Is it actual negativity? I don't know the context, so there can be times when if you're on an emotional high and you're riding that roller coaster of emotions and you don't really have a hold on it. I think even something that's just feedback, even if it's just feedback, I don't know, man. I don't know the context. So someone might even make a suggestion and you might take it as negative when maybe it's not. So I think that's step one. See where you're at personally. Is it are you acting out of emotionally? Because I know you mentioned emotions. So if you are, try to reassess the situation. If you feel good about it and you still think it's negative, I think an important part of that is going to them and letting them know that. I feel like a lot of the time in leadership, we think we can't really talk to anybody. Like we can't. It's true. We can't go to somebody and go like, hey, this upset me, because I think a lot of people think leadership is just taking blow after blow after blow.
Ooh, that's good.
And not even letting not letting anybody know about it. Like you're just getting beat up and you're just like, oh, I'll just keep taking it, and I don't think that's it. I think, I'm sure there's parts of it that are similar to that, but it's okay to go to people still. You are human. At the end of the day, you're human. You feel things. And despite the fact that, you're carrying a weight that maybe this person's not, it's, if anything, you're showing a great example of how to live life. And to me, that is leadership, to go to them and say, hey, this negativity is kind of bothering me, or, maybe even ask them like, why are you feeling this way? Just kind of dig more, ask questions, truly love people, because that's love, not just holding that anger in and then it becomes bitterness, and then before you know it, you're pulling away from that person, and you may not even notice it, but you might naturally pull away from them because you're just taking those blows repeatedly, and then you're like, oh, I guess I'll just naturally distance myself. Like, I feel like that's probably our humanness, honestly. Like, oh, ow, run away. So yeah, just be honest with yourself, and think about, okay, is it real? Is it true negativity? And if it is, go to them. Don't get out of that safe space. That's leadership. So yeah, that's what I got for that.
It's good. I think, first of all, I really think all of us need to remember what leadership is. Everybody wants it, but Jesus says, those who want to be great among you must be a servant to all.
Yep. And,
he constantly gave examples of leadership when he washed feet, when he served. His entire life was serving. So you're going to, it's hard. So you are dealing with confronting people, not because you're telling them what to do, because you're trying to love them and serve them. And I viewed it as the negative comments being them attacking you. them questioning you, them, one of the things we've learned at our church is, like, for instance, when people leave, one of the biggest things I tell people, if you're ever going to be in church leadership or ministry at a church, when people leave, very rarely do they leave in a good way. They always have to justify to themselves why they're leaving many times, and that includes trashing you, trashing your church, trashing whatever. That's just how people are. And it's insecurity based. So I would say the biggest thing, how do you not let it? You have to realize, one, you're serving them. So if you realize that you're going to give to them and not worried about what they give to you, it makes it easier to not walk away affected by what they say.
That's good.
And then two, is what we said earlier, knowing your name and knowing that who you are is not dependent on what they think. Now, that's easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's a reminder, and sometimes you just got to deal with that. And, and the other thing I'd say is take heart, because you're in good company. Jesus was attacked constantly. Paul was attacked. David was, anybody who led gets attacked by the people they're trying to serve and love sometimes. So, enjoy the ones. A friend of mine always says, enjoy the real ones. And what he means by that is appreciate the people who get it.
Yeah.
And the people that don't, they're the ones that are going to usually be attacking. Usually. Yeah. Or being negative. So
that's good.
Just my thoughts. I turned British there for a second.
That's good, man. Great question, by the way. Whoever asked that, I hope you watch this and you can take something from it. So, thank you.
Trying to pick one here. We got, like I said, we got some good ones.
Yeah.
We'll answer them all, but all right. Well, let's go to. Sorry, folks. This is not scripted.
Nope, never is.
What are some creative ways we can invite people into the church?
Let's see. Man, outreach is such an important thing in getting people, we use the whole icing analogy, we want to give people enough icing to take a bite into the cake, and the cake is, Jesus. So when I think of creative ways to bring people to the church, we think of, events. I know we did a region show, that's going to come back here in the hopeful near future, doing, bringing things to people where they can feel safe, and it can be laid back enough to people who don't believe, are like, oh yeah, I'm comfortable with going to this, so like music. Let's see.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, music, I think of, we've talked about outreach in the sense of like even like a bar ministry, going to places that people wouldn't expect, Christians to go. Let's see what else. I'm trying to think.
But being honest about why you're there, and taking that's one thing you got to be smart too. I had a guy one time like, God's called me to work at the strip club, and I'm like, dude, I don't think God's called you to do that. Going there, outside and people do that's cool, but like, I knew this guy and he was just justifying, but I know what you meant. I'm saying it for them. Like, sure. Absolutely. Where would Jesus go? I think he would go there. We take a crew and we go these places and live life with people there. And
absolutely. Yeah. Social media, we do real talk, and we're very active on Facebook. We try to reach people that way. Just whatever we can get our fingers on to show people Jesus. Man, I think I can even, I don't know. Music means a lot to me. That's one of the biggest things in life for me. So music's huge. I was kind of brought up in a very, rough music scene. And it'd be so cool to one day go back and just, be like, hey, here I am. And if people think I'm still cool, I could tell them why. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think don't be afraid to go to the dark places to bring light.
That's right.
Go where the people are, and then show them that you're just a person.
Yep.
A lot of times they don't realize that. They think we're pretending to be perfect. It's like, listen, I am not anything he is. Maybe stop focusing so much on Christian activities, like making them Christian activities and focus more on the just doing things and doing the activities. And in that, Christians are there and inviting people, right? So why, if we were to put a show out, why would we do a show that just says Christian show instead of saying, yeah, for instance, free music event, come hang out, and then there's a bunch of Christians there.
That's right.
You know, because that's where the people are. I think the use of social media is a big deal, but I think it's more than just hitting share because it said other creative ideas.
Right.
I think, man, there's all kinds of things. Video games. I know people play those together. Sports.
Yes.
When you're playing sports, movies, you know, one of the things we want to do is we want to start doing some creative movies. People don't realize, like actual use of, which we will be coming out with. I know we've said it. We want to do a quality one, which is why we haven't just thrown stuff out.
Sure. Yeah.
But we're excited about that. Yeah, I don't know. Just maybe not being so stuck. I know this is really popular to say stuck in the box, and just take the light in the dark places. And then this is not necessarily creative, but people don't do it. Just ask people, hey man, you ought to come check our church out. Don't make it weird. Like, good sir, you should come and check our church out. The Lord is there. You know, like sometimes we go and think we have to say it a certain way instead of just be like, hey dude, you should come to my church. It's awesome. Yeah. Like we eat and play basketball after. It's crazy. That's it.
And then boom.
They may say no, but it's like you can't be afraid of people saying no.
Yep, and that's planting. That's attempting to plant seeds. I think, people think it has to be done a certain way, and it really doesn't. You know, it talks about Paul saying, you know, be all things, you know, for the good of God. You know, to bring people in. And it's like, let's do it. You know, I think that's big evidence that it doesn't have to look a certain way. So,
cool. I hope that answered their questions.
Yeah. Great question, by the way. These are great questions. I love it.
All right. Next one. Maybe one more.
Yeah.
I feel like your energy level's down. I'm sorry.
We're in question mode.
You want a deep one? Well, they're both deep. You want a deep or deeper?
Oh boy. Let's go deeper.
The American Christian Church appears to be full of many individuals that treat Sunday as a social club and then resume life the other 6 days of the week. Is the church doing something wrong in communicating its message, where individuals are confused about the purpose of Christianity, or is it a byproduct of this fallen world?
I think it's a combination of all. Was it last week or the week before? We had Real Talk Live. This has stuck with me so much. And there's this group, they're called Barna. They do a bunch of surveys for, you know, American church, and they, you know, ask all these questions. And one of the questions they asked was asking people what if they knew what the Great Commission was, and then have them explain it. And only, I think it was 18% said yes and explained it, while 82% either straight up said no, I'm not sure, or yes, but I couldn't explain it to you. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow. So in a way, yeah, I think the church with a capital C, you know, there's a possibility that, you know, our message just isn't getting through somehow, you know, because the Great Commission, like that's the mission, right? Like, hey, go tell people about Jesus, spread the truth to all nations, you know, and people don't. If 82% of churchgoers are not necessarily sure of what that mission is, then what are we doing? So I think
that's part of what this person's saying, right? Clearly something's wrong.
Yes, I definitely think something's wrong, and I think that's part of church with the capital C. People, you know, we're all sinful. You know, at this point, we're so far away from God. You know, the creation has walked away from its creator, and the gap is so big that I think, you know, there's this natural. It's very interesting since we're born with it. I think there's this natural sense of, like, you know, I do what I want, and that's hard for people to give up. So I think that comes with the brokenness of what the world we live in right now, especially today. Like today it's real bad. You do you, essentially. It doesn't matter what it is. I think that definitely is part of it. There's a third part. It was the church, and then there was people. I don't remember what the third part was, but
I mean, it was all the same question.
Yeah.
I think that a big part of it is we don't tell the whole gospel. Okay? So, for instance, the gospel is not just Jesus loves you. That's not just the gospel.
Yeah.
Because you don't need a savior in what I just told you.
Right. It just says, hey, you're loved.
The gospel is we are sinners, we are broken, and we need to be saved, and that we are going to have to die to ourselves. There's a reason that the Bible in the New Testament over and over starts with Jesus. Paul says it too. Paul says we are dead to sin, alive in Christ. Jesus said, crucify your flesh, die to self. All these things involve this powerful baptism. Let me give you the idea of water baptism. This will tell you exactly the problem here. When you go in that water, that's you're dead. Everything that's happened before, who you were, is gone. Your old ways of living, it's over. When you come back up, you are a new creation. And that new creation means everything has changed. So we don't want to tell people the hard things. See, I mean, this is the way I look at it. A lot of times Christianity is viewed as, I don't even know how to put it. It's a decoration. That's what I said last week, right? It's something you go once a week. And that way when people say, what church do you go to? Because here in the Middle East, in the Midwest, America, it's still socially, especially up here in northern Indiana, it's still socially acceptable, even beneficial to be associated with a church.
Right.
Socially.
Right.
Oh, I go to this church. But it doesn't involve any change. There's no death to self. What Christianity really is it's a life. So to me, everything that I am, I always have this picture almost like a funnel. Everything that I am, it goes down into this, is like a stream of water, okay? Normally we just fall through it. This is who we are. Christianity is like is a complete change. Everything that we are is funneled through the fact that we are Christ. I am a husband, but I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian husband. I work. I'm a CEO, but I'm a follower of Christ. Everything we do flows out of the fact that we're Christian, and people they don't understand that. And honestly, I think it's leadership. Leadership doesn't want to do hard things. The American Christian church, for the most part, and I get it, we don't want to do the things the Scripture says. We don't want to practice church discipline, even though we kind of talked about this last week, like not in the negative way. We don't want to tell people. We tend to err on one of two sides. One is we go too far and like cast them out for whatever and make people hide. And the other side is we don't call them out for anything. We don't say what you're doing isn't right. We don't make them look in the mirror and face the reality like the rich young ruler did, where Jesus says to them, okay, you have all these good things, but I'm asking you to give up this. We don't want to make people. We want to make it easier for people to sit in the pews. So people don't want to hear tough things.
Right.
And so I think that overall that's a big part of it. I'm looking at the question again. So is the church doing something wrong in communicates message? Yes, I think there's a miscommunication on what the gospel is.
That's good, man.
It's not just that Jesus loves you. It is also that you have to die, that everything about this world is almost opposite of the kingdom of God. And that it's going to involve change, and it's going to involve sacrifice. I will say this very plainly. If you're following Jesus and have never had to sacrifice anything, whether that's a momentary pleasure, whether that is reputation, whether that is not being one of the cool, then Jesus himself says, count the cost. No man builds a house without knowing how much it's going to cost. And he applies that same principle to Christianity. Don't even act like you're going to follow me until you understand what it means. And I think that's part of it. So in a way, we're letting people leave without knowing the cost. So they think they're okay because they know who Jesus is. We think it's enough to tell people who Jesus is. We need to make them understand that knowing who Jesus is and him knowing you are different.
Man.
Okay? So knowing Jesus, everybody knows Jesus, said the demons in hell tremble at his name.
Right.
But acknowledging him as Lord and Savior is different. He is Lord of my life. I go his way. Right? Does that make sense?
Yep, I'm with
Intern Clint, that makes sense? He says yes. Okay. So I think that's part of it. And then, like you said, there's one little... he says... so do we think that is... We are confusing people about the purpose of Christianity? There is no... In my opinion, I think even the way he said it, I think it's very clever, this person. Christianity is not a purpose. Christianity is life. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It has to be, it's all or nothing. Jesus draws a line in the sand. It is all or nothing. It's not half and half. And he also said, is it a byproduct of our fallen world? I definitely think the church will never be perfect because we are still fallen.
Absolutely.
But I think the message can be perfect even if we're not. We just got to make sure to do it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I know. It's one of those times we kind of wish we were all having a dialogue. Hopefully that helped you guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if you have thoughts on that. You are out of it today.
Dude, I love when you speak, man.
You're probably the only one. But
you make things.
Be fun.
You make, man, you're different, man. You're different, and the reason why you're different is because you are willing to say those things. And I know for me, like I don't know if I'd be willing to tell that to people. You know where I'm at currently, and like
I think you live it, dude.
It's inspiring though.
I think you live it.
Thank
you. To encourage you. So it doesn't matter if you can't always put in the right words. Like I know you know it because you've seen the cost, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of people I know. Real recognizes real. I know. I had a professor in college. Just to encourage you, he said. He said one thing, and I added something to it. He's talking, when God breaks you, you always walk with a limp. And he used the story of wrestling with, I believe, Jacob, the angel, and he walks away with a limp. It's in the Old Testament. But anyway, I might be wrong with Jacob. But same with us and God, right? When we wrestle with God and we really come to grips with who we are, when God breaks us, we always walk with a limp. And here's the thing, real recognizes real, broken recognizes broken. And I can see a guy with a limp, which tells me he's wrestled with God, and that's real. And God, so you're living it, man. And like, it's the people out there that if there's no transformation in your life, you've got to ask yourself, do I know him? Doesn't mean perfection.
Right. Yeah.
Is there any transformation in your life? Because there's not an example of anybody coming to know Jesus that there wasn't a change.
You're right. So,
encourage you, dude. You're living it, and people are responding to that. So, hey, we all got to be a part of the body. I'm just a big mouth. Hey guys, I don't know. I think that's about it. You got anything?
Thank you guys so much. He kind of said earlier this was more like just like a dive-in episode. We weren't like super like woo. I hope you guys appreciate it still, because these are such good questions today, and we just kind of went right in. And this is kind of just kind of how it goes. Like, this is how our conversations are. When we get on a roll, even when the camera's off, like this is how it is. And when we really decide to dig in. So I hope you guys appreciate it. Us just kind of opening up to it and just allowing you guys to just kind of be a part of it. I hope you guys decide to leave your thoughts. I promise we look at them. So please feel free to leave a comment.
Well, and other people look at them too, so that's the good thing.
Absolutely, yeah. You guys are part of this ministry, so leave a comment, share some thoughts, and we'll interact with it. Other than that, I just appreciate you guys so much. Like I said, episode 44, how crazy. We're getting so close to 50. So please continue to share, and so we can be a little bit of a light in the world of social media.
It's great. Love it. Yeah, be a light, city on the hill, all those things. Yeah, guys, thanks so much. We appreciate it. He said it all up above. Again, you have 2 links, www.theremnant.life/real-talk. You can add your questions or topics. You can definitely below, like he said, what are your thoughts on all this? We'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the questions we've answered, or maybe you can relate to kind of where we're at with emotions and apathy and all that. We'd love to hear it. We hope to see you next week when we film episode 45, right? We should see episode 45. That's a big one. And then remember that this Thursday, we'll be going live for Real Talk Live at 9 p.m. We'd love to see you there. Other than that, like, share, all that good stuff. We hope you guys have a great day, and truly, God bless you.